This is episode 80 of the 99 Forever podcast. I'm Eric Friesen, and my guest tonight is making his debut on the podcast. He's the creator of StatHockey.com and a contributor to theHockeyWriters.com and NHLTradeRumors.me, Rob Couch. Rob, how's it going tonight?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
For sure. It's good to talk to you, man. I've been looking forward to having you on the show. And were you up early to watch Canada play in the World Juniors this morning?
I actually was, yeah. No Oilers prospects in the entire tournament, but, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it makes the World Juniors a little more fun to watch when there are a couple Oilers prospects that you can follow. I mean, I don't know if anything will ever top when Jordan Eberle was leading the tournament and scoring in back-to-back years for Canada in 2009 and 2010. The second year he played for Canada actually was here in Saskatoon, so I had a chance to go watch him play one game live.
Oh, that's cool. I think that was one of my first World Juniors I really dove into.
Yeah, I mean, it was an exciting finish because just like the year before, Eberle played the late game hero, scoring those two goals in the final 5 minutes of the game against USA in the gold medal game to send the game to overtime. I guess the year before it was the semifinal against Russia, which would be his most memorable World Junior goal. But unfortunately, the USA came away with the gold medal there, and it was actually Jack Campbell who was in net for Canada or for USA when they won gold in Saskatoon.
That's fun.
Yeah, but no, I mean, awesome to see him light it up there. And you know, Connor McDavid would be another one in 2015. He wasn't an Oilers draft pick or prospect yet, but the Oilers were near the bottom of the league in 2014-15, and there was hope throughout oil country that the Oilers were going to land him, even if it was only a 11.5% chance. But I think a lot of people were watching that tournament a little closer than even normally they would, just because of the potential of getting McDavid.
Yeah, and that generational talent.
Yeah, what a great tournament that was too. And I don't know, I like it when the tournament is in the evening. I mean, it's definitely easier to watch when it's held here in North America, but I don't know, there's something about waking up at 7 a.m. to watch the World Juniors that just feels like a Christmas tradition in Canada, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad. I was saying that today, that I kind of wish it was maybe Canada gets in around 5 p.m., done, writing for the day, just toss it on, good start to the evening.
Yeah, exactly. But while the World Juniors will be dominating the hockey headlines for the next couple weeks, we are still going to be focusing on the Edmonton Oilers tonight. And Rob, since you're a first-time guest on the podcast, I'd like to start by just hearing a little about how you started following the team. So when did you first get interested in hockey, and how did you become an Oilers fan living in Ontario?
Well, my dad played hockey growing up or whatever, so I was right in to hockey when I was young. Surprisingly enough, I didn't start till I was novice, about 7, so I think I missed all of Tyke, whatever, but I jumped around positions. He's a Leafs fan. I'm in Ontario, so I had to snap out of that once I decided to really follow a team, could stay up, watch the games. So I think it was the year before the lockout, and chose the Oilers. Ryan Smith. So I think he got me into the Oilers.
I mean, I couldn't think of a better player for our generation of Oilers fans to be brought in for than Ryan Smith. He was my childhood hero as well. I actually had the opportunity to interview him about 5 years ago when I was working for the TV station in Lloydminster, and there was an event that he was at. And I mean, that still remains the best day of my broadcasting career, to get to just not only meet my childhood idol, but talk to him on television. And yeah, just such an awesome guy. And like I said, for an entire generation of Oilers fans, he was the poster child. He was the guy that we all, idolized. And, for the younger generation now, it'd be Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. But yeah, that's a great way to get into it. So Growing up in Ontario, and you said with your dad as a Leafs fan, you must be surrounded by Leafs fans too. Do you actually know any other Oilers fans that either live around you or that you've met playing hockey or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. A couple of my Toronto fans aren't like that delusional about the cup and stuff, but no, I there's scattered teams, maybe some bandwagons from like Pittsburgh, Chicago, something like that.
Because
But
you're not that close to Toronto, right? I think you're over an hour away.
yeah, no, I born in Toronto,
Oh,
but
born in Toronto. Okay.
yeah, moved out of there. But yeah, no, anyone. It's usually Leafs fans around here.
Yeah, which would make sense. And like I was telling you before we started recording, I went to grad school in Toronto too, so I know what it's like to be an Oilers fan surrounded in Leafs country. Although there was one other Oilers fan in my class, so that kind of helped a little bit. But yeah, just so Ryan Smith, the kind of dovetails into the next thing I was going to ask you is, who were some of your favorite Oilers players when you were growing up, other than Ryan Smith? Who would be one or two others that you really enjoyed watching play?
So I got two from the Oilers. I really liked Horkoff.
Okay.
He was a solid center. I became a center. I started defense, wing, then I became center. So I liked him, and then started as kind of a stay-at-home defenseman. But Pronger, I really liked Pronger.
Well, I mean, if you were starting to follow the team right after the lockout, I mean, it would be easy to gravitate to Chris Pronger, who was probably one of the top 2 or 3 best defensemen in the league at the time. And that was huge for the Oilers to get him. And that Stanley Cup run in 2006 doesn't happen without Chris Pronger.
No, I love watching the hitting when I played, and then the Scott Niedermayer was a good one with him. So seeing them together, I think it was after the Cup run.
Yeah.
When he signed or got traded. Yeah,
to Anaheim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two together. You would have been great for the Oilers to end up winning the Cup with Pronger in 06. He waited another year and ended up getting there with the Ducks in 07. But
yeah,
Horkoff, that's an interesting one. I always ask any first-time person on my show, who their childhood heroes were, and I don't know if I've ever heard Horkoff's name brought up, but I mean, the guy was Mr. Consistency out there for the Oilers, played 13 years for the team. And if you just look at everything that he brought night after night, it wasn't the most talented guy on the ice, but he was someone who you could count on to win face-offs. He later in his Oilers career actually was hovering around a point per game for a couple seasons, and just had great chemistry with Ales Hemsky there in the mid to late 2000s. So yeah, it's a good solid pick, and he scored a big goal during the 2006 playoffs against the Sharks as well.
Mm-hmm. That runs a little hard for me to
on the younger side.
Yeah, very pretty young there, but these more recent ones are a little more fresh.
No, that makes sense. I was 17 during that run in 2006, so I mean, perfect age to enjoy it, right? And you would have been like
10, 9?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
So like the memories aren't going to be as fresh in mind, especially I don't know if you were able to stay up for all those double and triple overtime games.
I don't think so.
Would have been done at like 1 a.m. Ontario time. Some of those,
I could.
Pretty tough in like grade 4 to stay up till that time to watch it. And Rob, have you ever had the chance to watch the Oilers play live? And if so, what do you remember about your first Oilers game?
I've been to 2 games in like when they've come to Toronto, the fun once a year.
That's a tough ticket to get to, isn't it?
Yeah, I got one McDavid's rookie year. He happened to be injured, so that was fun. But from that game, yeah, I was at least excited to see Hall, Eberle. I'm pretty sure Draisaitl was there. But both times I've seen them play, they were shut out. So I don't know if I'm going to any more games.
I think wasn't it that Garrett Sparks game
Yeah,
where he hit?
Garrett
Oh,
Sparks was the first one. That
geez, I
was
still remember that one. And the Oilers, I
very
remember
annoying.
the Oilers had a 2-minute 5-on-3. The Leafs took 2 penalties on one play, and I thought, okay, this is where they're finally going to get one.
I think I was right behind the net too for that whole thing, and it just nothing.
Couldn't squeeze one through. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough break. And I mean, getting tickets to any game in Toronto is tough to get. But when the Oilers come to town and there's the extra allure of McDavid playing, I'm sure it'd be a hard one to get. But do you hope to come out to Edmonton eventually and watch the Oilers play at Rogers Place? Is it sort of like a bucket list item for you?
I think so eventually, yeah. Maybe not right now, but it would definitely be a playoff one to be really cool.
I finally saw my first playoff game in 2022 against the Kings, and it was an awesome experience. I mean, it's always a great time going to Rogers Place. I can tell you it's one of the best buildings you'll ever be in. It's state of the art. I mean, it is 7 years old now, but the building still is in fantastic condition. And I don't know, after going to Rexall Place for so many years, which I also enjoyed, and there's lots of history in that building, but they needed a new arena in Edmonton, and the new one they have is fabulous. So I hope you're able to come out sometime when they have like a 3-game homestand or something and see all of those games. That's what one of my buddies from Australia did. He was a big Oilers fan, and first time he came to Canada, he wanted to make sure that they had a homestand so he could see more than just one game. So I hope that you're able to experience that, or maybe, like you said, catch your first Oilers game where they actually score one in Toronto as well, too.
The funny thing is McDavid dominated the first time I saw him, the second game, and I think it was 1-0. So it was 1-0 Toronto. Matthews probably scored. It was kind of ridiculous.
Now, I remember the game a year ago in Toronto. McDavid had 3 points in that game.
Yeah,
and
I picked the wrong game.
And the Oilers had, I think, I want to say a 3-1 lead, and then it just evaporated. The Leafs scored like 3 quick goals to take a 4-3 lead, and it just they didn't catch up from there. But thankfully, when the Leafs came to Edmonton, I think the next month the Oilers paid them back and beat them pretty handily 5-2. So nice to get one back on them. That was it was a great game, and McDavid scored 2 goals in that one as well.
Yeah, the one where he walked Riley, that would have been a really, really fun one to see. I think that happened right before the pandemic.
It did. It was right before the pandemic, January 2020. And it the fact that he looked back as if he was waiting for Nugent Hopkins to get up in the play, even though I know he had no intention of ever passing. That was all to fake out the defenseman. And then, like you said, he just walked right around Riley and elevated it over the goalie's glove. I think it was Hutchinson in net for that one. But, that would probably be on his top 10 goals list for sure.
For sure, yeah.
And it's crazy to think that, like, for most players, that would be the highlight goal of their career.
Yeah, but he does one every month.
Yeah. For McDavid, that wouldn't even be in his top 5.
No, they always show his first goal back from
Columbus.
Injury on the Columbus. Yeah,
for a long time I thought that was his best goal. I think
that little puck luck though.
A little bit.
Stumbled, yeah.
But still, for a 19-year-old to go through 3 opponents and then the goalie, it's just unbelievable. I think that now the Rangers goal in 2021 is now the best goal. He also scored another amazing one similar to that a week later against the Jets that kind of gets forgotten just because they were so close together. But
I don't know if I remember that. I remember a one on. I think he just blew by Pietrangelo. And on the right side, on his backhand. I don't know if he went.
That was in the playoffs,
or something. Was it?
I think it was against Vegas in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was.
But I mean, when his career is done, and they're showing his highlight reel montage at the Hockey Hall of Fame before he's inducted, he is going to have the most incredible highlight reel of any player in NHL history.
Someone's gonna have a lot of work.
I hope I'd love to just be in the room with the video editor who's cutting that together, just to see what got left on the cutting room floor, because they only had 5 minutes to get McDavid highlights in, and he gave them like an hour of quality footage. But yeah, so what is your best memory of watching the Oilers, either on TV or live in person? But I guess since you said you haven't seen them even score a goal in person yet, your best memories are going to come on TV. So maybe just like, what are one or two, if someone said your favorite Oilers memories ever watching the team, what sticks out to you?
Funny enough, it's nothing from the 2006 run, because I was a bit young, but
yeah,
that first was it 2016-17 back, there was a bunch of things from there. The game where they finally broke the drought and qualified for the playoffs after 10 years. That was a big one. That Cassian game in the playoffs against the Sharks was just fires me up every time I see those clips come back up in the playoffs. Or the McDavid goal against the Flames to put them out 2 years ago. Yeah, that was...
The Cassian one, it sticks out to a lot of people. And for a city that's been blessed with such incredible talent over the years, like Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and a list of other Hall of Famers, it's sometimes these gritty glue guys that have a lasting impact on the fan base. And Zach Cassian would be a perfect example of that. He was a guy who wasn't the most talented player in the world, but he would grind it out. He was tough. He would fight. He could chip in the odd goal. And I know it didn't end so well because of the contract, but if you think about what he brought during that 2017 run specifically, and even after that a little bit when he was playing on McDavid's wing, here we are 6.5 years later, and we're still talking about, that one series that Cassian had in 2017. So it shows you what an impact that made. And he was probably one of Edmonton's, I would say, 5 most important players in that series, right up there with,
for sure.
McDavid, Draisaitl, Cam Talbot, and then, debatable who Cassian might be 4th thereafter.
He ran over a couple people just
Logan
in
Couture,
Edmonton.
I think he crushed. Yeah,
it was Logan on the second one, and then it was a defender coming around the net on the other one. Not sure who it was. Wasn't Burns or Vlasic or anything, but
no. But there was also a 1-0 game in San Jose where he had the only goal, and
shorthanded.
Yeah, and sometimes that gets forgotten. But
that was the same game, I think, was it?
No,
not?
but the shorthanded breakaway was the same game in Edmonton. But there was another game in San Jose where he scored, and it just he was all over that series. So a huge part of that. So it's cool that one still sticks out for you. And you were saying, sorry, a couple other ones from 2017, you said the clinching, and then of course McDavid, his overtime winner to eliminate the Flames in
2022.
Yeah. For an entire generation of Oilers fans, that is going to be a memory that we'll be talking about for 20 years, because it had been over 3 decades since the Oilers and Flames had even met in the playoffs.
Yeah, so this was 1990 or
91.
91.
And here we are 31 years later playing again. So the first time in your lifetime that you would have seen it. And for me, I was 2 years old the last time they had played. I'm now in my 30s. So that gives you, an idea of how long it had been. And for the Oilers to come out and not just win the series, but win it so definitively after losing that first game on the road, to win 4 straight for the gentleman's sweep. Just, you couldn't have asked for a better finish than the best player in the world in overtime in your biggest rival's building to knock them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, just to have them move on against the Flames in second round, get further than I saw them in 10 plus years.
So when you're watching Oilers games, since there aren't any other Oilers fans around to watch with, do you typically watch them alone, or do you even watch with other Leafs fans, or what's your sort of game day ritual?
No, I just shut everything off around me, sit alone, lock in on the game.
No disruptions from
No.
Leafs fans texting you chirps or anything like that.
Oh no, the 2020 season wasn't great with
Yeah,
that. I think Leafs
because
got him 6 times,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
they had
yeah,
the season series that year,
but
so
then they lost 3 straight to the worst record
playoff team.
team to ever make the playoffs. So that
Yeah,
was
that
I don't
was
know,
great.
that one or being swept with 3 overtimes. I was like
Against
we were
Montreal.
both losers here.
Yeah, but the Oilers have still had more playoff success
Oh yeah.
in the McDavid Matthews era, if you want to call it that. So I mean, you still got some of the bragging rights there. But yeah, would you say that is the most excited you've ever been after an Oilers goal when Connor put that one in the Saddle Dome?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's
Because
hard.
I still think about that Anaheim series in 2017.
Yeah,
It just they should have moved on multiple times there.
they should
So
have.
this was the first time getting to the conference finals in a
Yeah.
long time that I was really excited for.
In our Heavy Hockey Network group chat, we were just talking about that the other day when the Oilers had their lead on the Rangers and the Rangers were starting to come back. That one of the guys in the group said, I don't feel safe in any lead until it's over now because of that Anaheim series. And I just thought, that one is one that still haunts a lot of Oilers fans. And realistically, like, yes, they should have been able to hold that 3-goal lead late in the third period. But at the same time, the most obvious goalie interference call
The
probably in the
pad
salary cap.
snatcher.
Yeah, literally having his legs pulled apart by Ryan Kessler and letting the puck slide through. It just, to this day, it baffles me how that one didn't get called. But you see a goalie interference call where a player's skate accidentally even bumps against a goalie skate and it's called back. But
Yeah, 5 seconds later,
yeah,
goalie can reset. But yeah, that one where he's
literally
grabbing the
having his
pad.
legs pried apart, it doesn't make sense. And if that doesn't happen and the Oilers hold on to win that game, and then they go back to Edmonton, which they won the next game 7-1.
Yeah,
They're off to the Western Conference Final against Nashville, and who knows what would have happened in that series.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe Nashville still would have won, but we'd be talking about a second Western Conference Final appearance for McDavid. And I mean, can you imagine if they would have got by them? We would have had a Connor McDavid versus Sidney Crosby Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah, they robbed us there.
Yeah,
That would early on too.
the marketing opportunities for the NHL to promote McDavid versus his idol, the past generational players.
Passing of the torch even.
Exactly.
If they were to win, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a huge opportunity because you don't get a lot of chances to do that. Like Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux never played each other in a Stanley Cup final. So they could have had this once in a generation type opportunity to have that. And yeah, it's a shame that a missed call, I often call them ignored calls, denied us of that. But no,
Yeah,
man,
I'm an avid refs need a little more help from the video and stuff like that
yeah,
on Twitter and stuff. And I don't really like their calls in
no,
any game. I
no, it's
pay attention to Oilers the most, but then
right.
I'm watching all these other games and there's so much calls around the league.
And I know they say it's a tough job, but with two officials out there and also two linesmen, you'd like to think that they're going to get it off and more often than not. And despite the fact that we see there's makeup calls too, like, oh, they
Those
gave
makeup calls.
game management. You don't want one team to have. I would rather the officials call everything, whether it's on the Oilers or not, because I'm confident that with the skill that the Oilers have, that they would get more power plays than their opponent would.
There'd be like
So
8 power plays a game on McDavid.
alone, yes,
Yeah.
the Oilers would be constantly on the power play because here's the thing: the Oilers have an intelligent fan base. We know the game, and I mean we are seeing it from a bit of a bird's eye view, watching it on TV as opposed to right up there in the action. But we can see all the hooks, the holds, the interference, and it just it sometimes is just such a shame that the refs don't reward the best player in the world when he's being mucked by these third and fourth liners who are just trying to shut him down. And it's like they're rewarding the lesser skilled players. And I think that that's something that the NHL could do a better job of. And it's something that the NFL and NBA do better of, where the star players do get those calls.
Protect their stars.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you breaking all that down for us and hearing a little bit about your history as an Oilers fan. And as I mentioned off the top of the show, you write for a few different sites, including your own. So when did you start StatHockey.com? And do you focus mostly on the Oilers, or is it the entire NHL?
I started summer of last year. I made sure to get it going before the season. And so I kicked things off with just this type of team preview, line projection things that I do for every team. But I think it was July, August, and it was, I think, a little easier at the start. It's tough to write for multiple and then keep up with mine as well, but working along with it.
Yeah, anytime you're right. There was a time when I was writing for two different Oilers sites, so it can be challenging to make sure you're producing content for all the different places you're working when and you've even got a third one in, so that could be even more challenging.
Yeah, I do some fantasy writing too.
Okay.
I'm big in playing fantasy hockey, so
Right.
do a little bit of writing, take my
How's
own
your
advice.
team doing this year?
First.
Oh,
So far.
you got the bragging rights there for sure. Do you have any Oilers players on your team?
No, I tried to. I drafted Ekholm, but he didn't.
Okay.
It was kind of lost him early. I took Jack Campbell in another one in like the last pick. I picked up Stuart Skinner though in that one, so I kind of swapped it out. People gave up on Skinner, picked him up before that 8-game win streak.
Perfect timing. Yeah, we have some fantasy experts here at the Heavy Hockey Network too, Fantasy Hockey Hacks, and they're Saskatoon guys like me, so I'll give them a shout out as well. And I had them back on the podcast back in August, and they have some great insights. So yeah, I'm sure it's interesting for the fantasy hockey guys. I've only played it a couple times in my life. I don't find that I have the time to always set the lineups or remember to be checking all that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty dialed in on the Oilers as it is, and so that's sort of my main focus. But best of luck with what's that?
Oh, sorry. When it's for money, you pay attention a little.
Yeah, that
little
definitely
more.
that definitely gives you some added incentive for sure. And are there any other contributors to StatHockey.com, or are you hoping to expand the number of writers for the site going forward?
No, I was just looking to start expanding because it's a lot of work for me. I have a goal to try to get at least one out per day, but if it can get more, or if I can keep that goal with me not having to write every single day, that definitely helps. And I think back to your previous question of it's not exclusively Oilers on the site, because
you were saying line combinations for different teams, and
every team, whatever can come up with. I like doing maybe free agent destinations, trade destinations. I'm always crafting those things up. What's logical? Maybe some prospect stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome, man. And like I've read your work at the hockeywriters.com before, and I think you provide good insight. So I'll definitely have to check out your work at the other sites as well. So yeah, best of luck with that going forward.
Thank you.
All right, let's dive into the current state of the team now. And the Oilers went into the Christmas break with a pair of come-from-behind road wins over the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers. It marked the first time the Oilers have had two third-period comeback victories on back-to-back days since 1991. Edmonton has also gone 13-6-0 in their last 19 games, including a league-best 8-game winning streak to get back to 500. Rob, there's still 51 games to play this season, but how crucial was it for the Oilers to grab those 4 points on the road before the break?
I think it was huge. I've had confidence in them all season. Even from the start, it was a 2-9 and 2-9-1, 2-9-2. And it's like there's so many games left. Their numbers are there. They're an elite team, even though they're not showing it. They have some of the best players in the world. And yeah, those third period comebacks showed they could score in the third period, which is great because they're not giving up the first goal in the first minute. I know you remember that trend.
Yeah. They're actually been really good in the first period this year too. I think it has been their best period. The third period of late has been better, but overall, I believe they're first or second in the league in first period goals.
Yeah, that's really nice to see. But yeah, be able to come back in games remind me of last year. I think they did, or over the last couple years, they did that a lot because they had to get wins.
I think it was 2 years ago where they came one game short of the NHL record for most consecutive wins when trailing. So
yeah, that was the Koskinen and Smith combo of the first couple minutes. Then they lock it down.
Something like 23 or 24 straight games where they were scored on first and came back to win. So it just shows, it was like the 1945 Montreal Canadiens did.
No, it was the opposite. It was when they scored first, they didn't lose, and yeah, it was like one short of Montreal.
Yeah, that could I thought it was when trailing, but I'd have to double check that. You could be right.
Yeah, when trailing would have been ridiculous.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you look at where they were in the standings. Like you said, this is a team that on paper should be a lot better than their record is. I think it's fair to say you don't want to hinge it all on one thing, but if the Oilers did have even league average goaltending, they're probably a top 3 team in the Pacific as it stands, as opposed to fighting for a wild card spot. But I mean, you look at the Connor McDavid injury, there is a lot more talent than just McDavid on this team, but obviously taking the best player in the world out for any length of time or having him playing at 50% health, that's going to have an impact. And the Oilers have been trying to rebound from that and dig themselves out of this hole. And remarkably, they have, like we said, going on that 8-game heater. And even after the 3-game skid that they went on, they were able to bounce back with these last 2. But there still is work to do. They haven't completely got themselves back into the playoff picture yet. But I think that you can see that they have, 5 players. I think they're the only team in the league with 5 players who are over 30 points. The top players are still producing. They'd like to see a little more production probably from the bottom 6. The defense has looked a lot better since the coaching change. I think they're making more plays, moving the puck up the ice. They've been more solid in the defensive zone. The penalty kill has been significantly better. The power play is back to basically where it should be, even if it is a few percentage down from last year. Overall, it's pretty solid. I put out a tweet the other day where they rank under Chris Knobloch since he took over in mid-November. I'll see if I can quickly pull that up here. Okay, so since November 11th, this is actually the game even before Knobloch took over. This is when the winning when they turned it around with a win in Seattle. So since November 11th, the Oilers are 5th in the league in points percentage. They're 1st in the league in goals for per game. They're 11th in the league in goals against per game, 4th in the league on the power play, and 8th in the league on the penalty kill. So, I mean, that's where they should be, the top offensive team in the league. Last year they were by some margin, and now they're sort of getting back to that, and McDavid's health obviously plays a big part in that. Being 11th in the league in goals against, I don't know if they're going to stay hovering around the top 10 for the rest of the season, but even if this team can be middle of the pack defensively, I think that they're going to be well set up because they have such offense that they can score 4 goals a game, but they just can't be allowing 5. So that's
that offense is back. So
yeah, you just need the defense to, if your goaltenders can hold the other team to under 3, I feel like the Oilers are going to win 9 out of 10 times. And even if the goaltender allows 3, they still are probably going to have a good shot to score 4 most nights. So I would say that this team is starting to turn the corner. And I mean, we're not talking about that small of a sample size. 13-6-0, that's almost a quarter of the season, 19 games there. So as long as they can even play close to that number, even if it's a few wins down from that for the rest of the season, then they're going to be fine to get in.
And their second half percentage over the last 4 years is all over 600, 650.
They're a second half team for sure. This is a team. And also there's a website. You can check the strength of schedule. But I
did see that. Yeah, I saw a tweet about that, and it's nice.
Yeah, there's a site that I check called Power Rankings Guru, and they do this for all the different sports in North America, and you can see how tough your schedule is. Yeah, so far the Oilers have had the fourth hardest schedule in the NHL. Their average opponent has been 14th place in the league. And so we're talking about the fourth hardest. So one of the toughest schedules any team has played, and they're still 500 at 15-15-1. But in the final 51 games, Edmonton will have the second easiest schedule at 17th% of average opponent. So the average opponent they're going to play over the next 50-plus games is going to be in the bottom half, on average, a bottom half team.
Yeah, I looked over the next 6 games, and they play the 4 bottom teams. They play Anaheim, San Jose, Ottawa, Chicago. It's like this is a nice 5 out of 6.
Now there is a couple tough ones, and they're like LA is LA. Right near the top. That's a tough one. But if you win that game, you're really looking good. And the Flyers, I think they've overachieved a little bit this year. I don't think that team is that good, but
yeah, they play them hard. It's I give Oilers a little advantage, but I think they can at least snag a point as long as they don't just put up 0 in games they should win.
But realistically, I think they only play 15 games against top 10 teams in the final 50 games. So there is a big opportunity to make up ground in the standing here. And I think another key is that they have a lot of games against divisional opponents still to play, and even Western Conference opponents. So the next thing I'll just ask you is, like, the Oilers are sitting 5 points out of a wild card spot with 2 or 3 games in hand on the teams they're chasing. What do you think their chances are of making the playoffs for the 5th straight season?
So I look at the teams in front of them, and you got Nashville has been on a heater, held in by Saros. I'm not sure. They're overachieving right now for sure. They rattled off a good number of wins in the past 15 games. A lot to do with Saros. I don't know if the offense can necessarily keep up. I saw them break down 2 goals in 13 seconds against Dallas. That was that was a nice one.
I don't think I've ever seen that before, where a team let in 2 goals in the final 15 seconds in regulation.
I don't think so either. Yeah, to go from winning to losing,
to not even getting it to OT for that extra point. And I mean, for Oilers fans, that was huge for Dallas to come back and beat them, because now, like we said, Edmonton's just 5 points back in the standings. And I don't know, if you look at this, like we just talked about this a little bit, but looking at January for them, I mean, even if they get through this final week of December, you got San Jose and Anaheim. Let's say those 2 are wins, and we'll even say the one against LA's a loss. So they come out of December, we'll say 1 game over 500. When I look at their schedule here, Philadelphia and Ottawa, I'd like to think those are both wins.
Yeah, you could.
Chicago, another win. So that's 3-0 in January. Let's just say they lose to the Red Wings, because sometimes they usually go 1-1 against them. So now you're 3-1. Montreal hopefully beat them. So now 4-1.
I would like to say about the Red Wings, they're like 2-7-1 since Kane, but I know it's not Kane's fault. Yeah, but
I don't know. There's just something. The Oilers always seem to drop 1 against the Red Wings.
Yeah, they overachieved at the start for sure. So I think we're catching them at a decent time.
Yeah, that could be good. And then the rest of the month, Toronto, Seattle, Calgary. Maybe win 2 out of those 3. Columbus, Chicago, Nashville. Those are 3 you'd like to win all of those. So, I mean, realistically, in the 11 games in January, there's the potential for an 8-3 run, maybe 9-2 if you're really lucky. But I'll go a little bit on the cautious side there and just say 8-3. So, I mean,
yeah, I think that's in a second wild card at least.
Well, you come out of that month and now you're 6 games over 500 with just about half the season to go. Like the Oilers have a really stacked schedule from February on because they only played their first back-to-back games last week, and they were behind a lot of teams in games played just because, they had the 5-day break earlier in the month when McDavid got into Canada's Walk of Fame. Then they're having this 5-day Christmas break. There's also a 9-day break at the end of January going into February. But from February 6th till about April 15th, they play every other day, basically. So it's going to be a hectic schedule. It's something
they need
like
a goalie by then.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, like I'm looking at this right now. It is in February. I think it's 14 games. March 15 or 16 games, it looks like. And then even though the season only goes till April 18th, they still play 10 games like there. So, I mean, it is going to be a full, ride right to the end. And you just hope they have some gas left in the tank once the playoffs start. But it is going to be a busy schedule. And it should be fun for Oilers fans having, games to watch every other night for the final 2 months of the season.
Yeah, I was going to say great for viewers.
And let's talk about the goaltending situation now, since you just kind of mentioned it. It's arguably been the Oilers' biggest issue this season. We saw Jack Campbell get put on waivers and later sent to the Bakersfield Condors in the AHL. Stuart Skinner has also struggled early on, but, he's been better as of late. Rob, what is your confidence level in Skinner right now?
I am pretty confident in him. I think that early jitters or whatever you want to call it, every goalie goes through it. That's just at a bad time because Campbell couldn't help it all either, and they couldn't score, and their defense just had lapses. So everything kind of went wrong, and it didn't really help them. But I like him as a 1A, even a starter. I know, like if they had someone like Casey DeSmith, I know he's not moving, but someone like him who can go 30 games in a season, even 35, that'd be nice to have.
And I think we should also mention that Skinner is ahead of schedule. I mean, the plan was for Jack Campbell to be the starter for 3.5 to 4 years, with Skinner playing, 30 odd games, and then eventually take over the starter's role in year 4 or year 5 of that contract. But it's sort of
the plan.
That was the plan in the summer of 2022, because you couldn't go into the season with a raw rookie expecting him to be the starting goaltender for your team in a year that you're trying to win the cup. However, that's pretty much exactly what happened. Jack Campbell lost the starter's net to Stuart Skinner pretty much within a month of his Oilers career starting. So from that point on, Skinner has been the default number one goalie. And I mean, it turned into a pretty impressive first year for him. He was the runner-up for the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year. And, Jack Campbell did have that one strong run in the middle of January where he kind of got back on track before falling back down again. But I just look at Skinner and I think he is ahead of schedule, which is a good sign. But I don't know if he's ready to be a 55-game goalie at 24 years old. I do think that they need to insulate him a little better and have another goalie who they can count on to maybe even split the games, or if it's not a exact split, it could be like we see Skinner play 45 games instead of having to handle 55.
I would love a split for sure, because he's I don't know about if that was the plan of like 3.5, 4 years, I definitely would have thought he would be ready earlier, but he's being way overworked. I think
Bob Stauffer has mentioned that on his show, that was sort of, and he often will give a little peek behind the curtains of what the Oilers organization is thinking. And that sort of was, I think, what he alluded to, that they sort of expected a 50 to 30 game split between Skinner and Campbell for at least 3 years. And I mean, unfortunately, Jack Campbell didn't even make it 2 full years in Edmonton and never came close to playing 50 games. But Stuart Skinner, if there's a bright side to it, you've got him at $2.6 million for this year and the next 2 years. But you do need another goaltender. And that's kind of where I want to go with you next, because like I look at Skinner, I like him. If you look at how he's played over this most recent stretch, he's what would he be? I think he's 11-4 in his last 15 games and has like a 903 save percentage. So he's really turned it around after a rough start. But at the same time, can he keep this up for the full season and then into the playoffs? Because we saw how important he was just getting the Oilers to the playoffs last year, but he kind of faltered. There was 4 different times in the playoffs where he was pulled in favor of Jack Campbell. And I will give Campbell credit. When he did come in a relief appearance, he was fairly solid in the playoffs last year. You could even argue that he probably should have started 1 or 2 of those next games.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think the Oilers do need another goalie to reduce Skinner's workload if they have any hope of going on a deep playoff run. So I just want to ask you, are there any goalies around the league that you think the Oilers could realistically acquire before the trade deadline?
Number one, with the split, I think would be perfect. Blackwood from San Jose.
And we've already seen him goalie the Oilers once.
Contract, they can take contracts. Maybe Oilers can pick something else off their roster. They haven't really got great returns on their star players. I know Blackwood isn't really a star player, but
he was a very highly thought of young goalie a few years ago, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was
got injured.
Yeah, but in New Jersey, I think he was being touted as their goalie of the future. And I don't know if the Oilers were able to get Blackwood, I think that'd be huge. Could you even see a scenario where Blackwood ends up playing a little more than half the split with Skinner?
Yeah, I think so. Just how good he's been on San Jose. I think he has better numbers than Skinner on the Sharks. Even at the start of the year, I think he was he at like 900 save percentage when they were 0-11 or something?
And just allowing so much every night. But I don't know. I think that if Blackwood, like, not that the Oilers are an elite defensive team or anything, but he'd certainly have a better team playing in front of him in Edmonton than he would in San Jose.
Yeah, less shots for sure. Oilers have been just dominating the shots, so he just kind of get bored sometimes.
Yeah, and
make those big saves.
And I will give a stick tap to Calvin Pickard as well. I mean,
yeah,
I know his save percentage did dip under 900 with his most recent loss, but the guy has looked relatively competent when he's got in there, and he's made the saves he's needed to make. Nothing flashy or anything, but just a guy that you can sort of count on as a third string NHL goalie. So I like that guy as a depth option in the organization, but you probably don't want to go into the playoffs with him as your backup. You'd like to have that position solidified a little more. Is there anyone else other than Blackwood, or would you say that he right now is the number one target for the Oilers?
I think he is number one, but I wouldn't mind something Merzlikins, Gibson, maybe retain a bit money or take Campbell back. Like they got term left. They could be what Campbell should have been. Have that term to give Skinner a bit more time.
I think I would have been a fan of bringing in Gibson 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not sure that I would do that today, and I'm not sure Anaheim would also trade him in division as well. But
yeah, I don't know, just where they are. I don't like. They're right at the bottom. I've been really high on 30. Him. I think he's still elite.
He's not young, but he's not old either for a goalie at 30. So
yeah.
The thing is, you have to think is, first of all, does he want to come to Canada? He is an American goalie, and I believe he has a no trade clause. So would he waive to come to a Canadian team, even if it is one of the better ones? That's a question that would have to be asked. If they are going to bring in they'd have to retain. Anaheim would have to keep some money because I think he's a $6 million goalie.
I think he's 6'4".
So ideally, you'd probably like the Merzlikins when we've heard that one for a while, but there seems to be mixed reviews on him too. Some people are really in favor of that idea. Other Oilers fans are not sold on him at all. I do think Mackenzie Blackwood is the best option, but if the Oilers were to do that, Jack Campbell would pretty much have to go the other way, wouldn't he?
100%, yeah. And I would be completely fine with whatever picks they want to just throw to get that contract off, get Blackwood. I think he has another year.
Yeah, because you have to add a sweetener in, right? And San Jose is trying to rebuild anyway. They're trying to bottom out. So what do they care if they have Jack Campbell on the books for the next 3 years? They're not going to be competing in those 3 years anyway.
They might even start him.
They might even start him. So like, put your GM hat on for a second if you can. What does a Mackenzie Blackwood trade to Edmonton look like realistically?
I think with their time to rebuild, I don't think they are going to push really hard for a top prospect. So maybe Bourgault and Broberg are safe, but I don't know, I would at least 100% a first rounder. I'm thinking on a second first rounder to get Campbell out and bring Blackwood in with
You're
that
thinking
extra
2
year.
first rounders? I couldn't do it. I mean, I know the Oilers have
maybe
to
a second,
but the thing is, for me, they need to have that first rounder in the bank to trade each year. And I think using 2 of them is too much. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see what Bourgault is eventually going to do at the NHL level. I think that the kid does have the ability to snipe, and they need some wingers who can put the puck in the net. But to trade 2 first-round picks to get out of Campbell,
yeah, that's a lot, man.
That's maybe a lot.
Maybe Saros, if
for
that's
Saros,
something,
yes.
Yeah. But they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna get him, even though I think he's my favorite goalie.
Yeah, I mean,
it'd
be great if they could, but Nashville is even ahead of the Oilers in the standings right now, so I doubt that they're looking to downgrade their playoff chances. So that's a one that probably is out, even though Oilers fans would love it.
My 2 favorites would have been Saros or Hart, but I don't think either are gonna happen this year.
Right, and Hart is an Edmonton kid too, so there's that connection as well.
I have one sleeper though.
Okay.
For you, it's Montembeault, even after the contract extension. I don't know. I thought that was a nice little deal, term and money. Edmonton could afford it, but then that was a little while ago, and they've kind of been on a run, but I still don't think they're making the playoffs. I think they'll fall off a bit. But
it's a tough division that Montreal's in too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close to home there where those teams are, and it seems pretty locked up that the top 4 teams in whatever order you want to put them are going to be Boston, Toronto, and the 2 teams in Florida. Mm-hmm. So hard for a team like Ottawa to ever get in, or
Buffalo.
Like everyone thought that it was going to be Buffalo's. Yeah, I mean, they thought it was going to be the Sabres' year, this young, talented team to sort of, get into the mix, or young, exciting team, I guess I should put, because I mean, they do have some top end talent, but I think they're still missing a lot of pieces. And same for Ottawa. Like, I like their top 6 when you look at it, but just to knock out one of those top 4 teams, it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, Ottawa should, on paper, be better than Buffalo, I think, but they're right at the bottom. Like, they got the veterans mixed in there. They got the more established goalie, even more established defensemen and stuff. And it's just the younger team.
And that's why I say with the Oilers opening up 2024 with games at home against the Flyers and the Senators, when you're desperate for points and trying to get back into the playoff picture, those are 2 games you need to make sure you win. And I fully expect that they're going to get one back on the Flyers for losing that one on the road earlier this year. And let's hope that they can bring the same effort against Ottawa, because you remember the one year
they dominate
in the Canadian division. They won all 9 games against the Senators, and then the following year
30 points or something.
Yeah. And then the following year they lost both games to Ottawa. So then I think last year they split, I think. But it can be tough, but let's hope that the Oilers have figured everything out now, and that's a game that they can get back to dominating. But I think that the Blackwood deal is probably a good one. It's definitely one that's been talked about in oil country, and if the Oilers were able to pull that off, it would kind of fix one of their biggest issues, as we talked about, and just like we said, they don't need to have a Shesterkin. They don't need to have a Vasilevsky as much as we'd like to. But if the Oilers can even get just average goaltending, competent, reliable, steady goaltending, they have enough firepower that they can overcome that, and they can win games 4-2, 5-2, 5-3. So I think that is an issue. If before Ken Holland addresses anything else at the deadline, looking for another defenseman or possibly a center lower in the lineup, that should be the goaltender should be priority number one.
Yeah, I would even put defense third now. Coffee likes them.
Yep, and you know what? Coffee has had a big impact. He's getting them to make plays that they weren't that some of them weren't as confident making before. I've seen Vinny Desharnais pass the puck better than he ever has. Darnell Nurse, who is much more known for skating the puck up the ice, is now making more confident headband passes as well. So that's been encouraging to see.
And then CC.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe he's a piece that gets moved out at the deadline as well. We don't know. Ryan McLeod was one of the team's most underperforming players through the first quarter of the season, with just 4 assists in his first 21 games. However, he now has 5 goals in his last 10 games, including 3 in the 2 wins last week. And it looks like the move to the wing has helped unlock his offense. Do you think McLeod should be a full-time winger going forward, or do you think he can still grow into that third-line center role?
I think 100% the wing. Whether that's second or third line. Like I recently wrote about this exact thing that I know it's really short time he's been together with Draisaitl, but he doesn't have to lead a line, and I think there's a bit more responsibility that comes with that, and he can use that speed on the wing and be set up even with the better player there in Draisaitl. And Ryan can stick it out for now, but I think they do maybe need one. But I'd give Holloway a chance when he returns. He's got I think a little bigger body. Maybe he'd work out as the third line center for now. But I think, McLeod on the wing he's gonna dominate there. Well, not dominate, but do well.
But excel there.
Yeah.
And I would really like to see Holloway and McLeod get a run on the wing on different lines too, because these are both big bodies. Even though Holloway might be a little more of a crash and bang guy than McLeod is. I mean, if you look where he's had success recently, it's been going to the middle of the ice. It's an area that he usually avoids. He is more of a perimeter player, but that's where he's had success, is by going to the net. And it's no coincidence that he's been in good positions to score and he's buried them. So if he can just sort of get that into his head a little more consistently, that this is the type of player I need to be, this is what I need to do. It doesn't mean that I have to hit every player in sight. It doesn't need to mean that I have to be the most physical player out there, but just not to be afraid of going to those dirty areas. He is going to start producing more. And I think that, for Leon, you'd love to have a natural sniper playing with him all the time, but he can do so much offensively by either shooting the puck or passing the puck. Having a guy like McLeod who goes hard to the net and can either finish a rebound or just kind of be a screen for the goalie, I think that could work well with him.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of Nugent Hopkins and McDavid in him for a couple years now, kind of like a mix. And
he can fly up he doesn't have the puck skills of McDavid, but he can really fly up the ice. He's easily their second fastest skater.
Yeah, I know Holloway is pretty fast.
He's a blazer too, and that's good because the Oilers need more speed throughout the lineup. They do have the top end speed with some of their superstars, but having more team speed is something that they really needed to add to this roster. And I like the way McLeod can skate the puck up the ice. It's just a matter of when he gets over the blue line, being able to do something with it, as opposed to just taking it end to end.
Yeah, I think on the third line, I feel he kind of has to think that he's controlling the play and the puck and stuff, but Fogel's good at cycling. Draisaitl can hold on to the puck, so McLeod can go right to the net easier than hold on to the puck for as long as he's used to.
No, I think the goal has been, since he was drafted, that McLeod would eventually become the Oilers' third-line center, and we have seen him hold down that spot for various points in time over the past couple of years. I guess we briefly had Nick Bukestad in that spot last season, but McLeod is a guy who, could handle it, but maybe he just is going to be better on the wing, and that's reportedly one of the reasons why he didn't go in the first round of the draft in 2018 was because they didn't think that he could handle the center position at the NHL level, a lot of teams, I should say. But the Oilers were lucky to land him at 40th overall. And
yeah, I was very happy.
He was a guy who was, I think, projected to be 25th by most scouting services. So for the Oilers to get him middle, or I guess that'd be more earlier in the top 10 of the second round as opposed to later in the first round. It was a good find for them, and they've obviously turned him into an NHL player. And we both know the Oilers haven't turned many second round picks into actual NHL players, so that's a big win for the organization. Just the fact that he's played over 100 games now and is been a player who's contributed to some degree. Although I think there still is a lot more for him to reach at the NHL level.
I think he can get there.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this before the season on my season preview show, that he was a guy who I thought could eventually develop into a 40-point player. Now, I don't know if he'll fully get there, but that should be sort of the goal that he's aiming for, is a point every other game. And if he does get the opportunity to play on the second line wing as opposed to third line center, you'd hope that one of Draisaitl's wingers is able to put up at least 40 points. Like that should, even if without the power play time, that should be a reasonable projection for him.
Yeah, exactly. That would be hopeful that he can get himself some wingers, because I don't think Kane's really working out there.
Yeah, I mean, I know Kane has had a bit of a slow run here, but I'm overall still happy with the 13 goals he has scored, even if some of those did come earlier in the year. He's going to be a player who can score goals in bunches. That we've seen this from Kane, where he might have a run of games where he doesn't produce much, and then he scores like a hat trick, and 2 weeks later he scores another hat trick. So this is a guy who, when you need him, he is going to come through and produce goals, like we said, in a short amount of time. But you might have to live with the instances where he goes a stretch of games where he doesn't put up many points.
Yeah, as long as he's not hurting them.
Yeah.
And he's picking up the other parts of his game when that happens. I'm fine with it.
Like, I'm looking at it right now. He's on pace for 34 goals this year. And if you look at the previous two seasons he's played, he's been on pace for over 30 goals, even the 1 year over 40 goals on an 82 game pace. So, I mean, he's a natural goal scorer, and he can protect the Oilers players. There is that intimidation factor with him too. So I think that you might just have to live with the faults that he has to reap the rewards of the things that he can bring to this team. That's at least how I see the player.
I brought up, or I opened a discussion that not this year, but maybe they look in the offseason, if he doesn't actually get back to the top six, about seeing about moving him, see who's interested. Just because, like, if he's not top six, maybe they can go out and grab another tough guy for a little less.
I see what you're saying.
Older.
But could this? He is 32. I mean, that is a fair point. But at the same time, could you see this as just a brief move where they slid him down to the third line to shake up the lines here? Because I mean, it did get going. It did get some other players going, as we talked about, McLeod being one of them.
I can see that. Yeah, I was really looking at the analytics though. With, you can't split up that top line right now.
No.
And I don't think you can split it up for the rest of the year the way they're going. They're absolutely
best
dominant,
line in the NHL.
Yeah, above everyone else. I think I saw today they had with a 77% or 78% expected goals or goals for percentage better than 5 or 6 power plays.
Yeah, pretty incredible. And plus how lethal the Oilers power play is on top of that too. But
yeah, that's just 5 on 5.
But just to wrap up on Kane, I'll just say, I mean, 23 points in 31 games. I think that is decent for what you're paying him. I mean, he is getting 5.1 million, so he's on pace for 61 points, and like we said, the 34 goals. That's a productive winger, and I know a lot of those points did come when he was still in the top 6, but when
McDavid was out and he was getting power play time.
But I'm sure that he is going to get brought back up in the new year into that role. And come playoff time, I think that when you play a team like LA or Vegas, he's going to be a guy that you'll be glad that you have in the lineup. So I definitely see your point on that, Rob. Like he's an aging power forward. So those players historically take a dip as they get closer to their mid 30s. And he, like we said, he is 32. But for right now in a cup window, I think that it would be a little foolish of the organization to give up a 30-goal, 60-point winger when this is a team that, needs that kind of production on the wing. So I would not move them unless they think they can get a player who can provide the same type of offense back.
Yeah, no, it's just now that you say it, the cap is going up and they don't actually after, like I was thinking maybe before the end of his contract. I don't know how many years, 2 or 3 left, but maybe
he signed for 4 and this is year 2 of it. So there's 2 more years after this.
Yeah. So I don't know about after this season, but I guess
they could look at it
maybe
in the
final one. But if the cap's going up and for next year, I think he's safe. But then that year after they have to sign Bouchard and Draisaitl. So
well, I mean, Frank Saravelli said that the cap is going up 5%, which would take it up from 83.5 to about 87.7. So, I mean, if it were to go up another 5% the year after that, now we're talking about in the summer of 2025, the salary cap potentially being 92 million. So that gives the Oilers a little more flexibility. Like it just needs to keep going up $4 million a summer. Now, like that trend has to be getting back into it as opposed to $1 million a summer. So
yeah, for sure.
If they can do that and they're able to trade Kane, like you said, two summers from now when he's 34, like I could see that happening. And you hope that you're using that money to bring in a younger player who's closer to their prime, who can contribute on a top 6 role with either McDavid or Draisaitl. But I mean, we're also having to re-sign those guys as well, right? And we know that their next deals aren't going to be cheap.
I was going to say each cap jump is going to be for each of them. Like Bouchard is over a point per game. Draisaitl will, if they can lock him up long term, he'll be. I think he's going to go for 13
at least. I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets 14.
It depends how selfish they want to be. Like if they've won a cup, I think he goes more. If they haven't, I think
maybe
there's
he takes a little
conversation, with those guys in there because Nuge took less.
I mean, McDavid was offered the full $15 million by Chiarelli back in 2017 when he signed his extension. And, for a 20-year-old kid to get offered $15 million a year, and for him and his agent, who was Jeff Jackson at the time, now the CEO of the Oilers, to make a decision to only take 12.5. That shows tremendous leadership from any player, especially a player that's that young, that's only been in the league for 2 years, to say, I know I'm becoming the highest paid player in the league, but I'm taking less than I can, because you can only make 20% of the cap.
Yeah.
So when McDavid is a free agent, or in the summer of 2026, we might see the salary cap at 96 million by that point if it continues this 2 million jump, right? So 20% of 96 million is 19.2. So that's realistically like what if he wanted to maximize every potential dollar he could make, he could be a player that's close to 20 million. I believe that McDavid will leave money on the table again. How about you?
Oh yeah, he's gonna leave I think he's gonna leave a lot. He really cares about winning. I I don't know him or Draisaitl, but I would think that McDavid's even more for taking the pay cut.
But let's think about it like this. So he's made 12 and a half over 8 years.
Yeah, he's
and
set.
And how much has he made from endorsements on top of that? Fair to say another $5 million from all the different commercials he does throughout the year. So it's probably closer to 17 million. And that's American dollars, keep in mind. So when you convert it to Canadian, we're talking about over 20 million a year that he's been making for the better part of a decade. I don't think it's going to hurt Connor that much if he takes 16 million a year instead of 19 million. He can leave those 3 million on the table. And, there would be a conversation with the GM at the time, whoever Jeff Jackson puts in place, I'm expecting this 3 million that I'm leaving on the table to be used on a player that's going to help us win.
I was going to say even 15.
He could. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the number I was thinking. If he
and that's really leaving
a bit. Like if he goes max term, I don't think he cares that much. He's set already. The last thing he needs to do is the cup, and he's seen around the league the teams or the players that take a bit less, Crosby and Bergeron and stuff, and they've got their cups.
I think he'll realize that. Plus, that's still 120 million over 8 years on a $15 million cap hit. So put that on top of the 100 million he's already made. Like, we're talking about a player who's pushing $250 million in career earnings. He'll be fine. I think when he looks back 50 years from now on his NHL career as an old man, he'll be happy with 1 or 2 Stanley Cup rings aside on his in his trophy case instead of the extra money he's got in the bank. So let's hope that happens. And speaking of some money that's been spent, we'll talk about Connor Brown tonight. He was obviously Edmonton's biggest offseason addition last summer, and he struggled mightily in his first season as an Oiler. He has just 1 assist in 24 games and was a healthy scratch against the Devils last week. Rob, I want to know, what were your expectations for Brown before the season, and what do you think are reasonable expectations now for the rest of the season?
Well, the first thing I did was look at his recent seasons in Ottawa, and he was a top 6 player there, but I think he did get power play time, and he got, I think, more time, was it 18, 19 minutes a game and stuff. So it was obviously going to go down a bit from there. So I would have been happy with 35, 40 playing beside a couple great players like McDavid or Draisaitl, whatever line he was going to go on, it was going to be McDavid at the start, and finally get him that 5-on-5 winger, keep that top 6 really good. But yeah, he's been it kind of just fits into that early season struggle with the Oilers not being able to score, and he's just continued that.
Yeah, I mean, he is coming off the broken leg, right? So
that too.
I think there was an expectation that it was going to take him some time to get up to speed. And I think that the patience with Oilers fans, I shouldn't say all, but a vocal number of them on Twitter, that patience started to wear thin a little bit after the 10-game mark when his cap hit kicked in for next season. Yeah. So now let's keep in mind, Brown was a player that McDavid wanted here. He recruited him in the summer, and Connor Brown did in fact do the Oilers a favor by taking league minimum for this year to help them out. But there is going to be a $3.25 million cap hit applied to next year's cap for the bonus. And if the salary cap does go up $4 million as expected, that eats up about 80% of it right there, just paying Brown's bonus, whether he's with another team next season or not. So you definitely want this year to be an impactful year. And to this point, it hasn't. But there needs to be more in the second half. I think that let's hope that healthy scratch was a bit of a reset for him.
Yeah, I was hoping that, and it kind of lit a fire under Ernie to get back in and finally be given the chance, and I think that's what they need. A bottom six with a little bit of worry if they're going to be taken out, so they're playing a little better, fighting for
Yeah,
their spot a little more.
encourages them to keep pushing. And the other thing is, like, Connor Brown, he didn't just forget how to play hockey overnight. This is a guy who has been a productive second, third line, middle six winger for several years. And like he had the 20 goal a year in Toronto earlier in his career, but he really found his game with the Senators. So that's kind of where you'd like to see him just continue to get back to that sort of production where he was a guy who you could count on for 15 plus goals in sort of a secondary role. And I kind of expected playing with McDavid this year that his numbers that he'd reach career highs, that there might be a 25 goal season for him. Obviously that isn't going to happen now, but I'd like to think with 50 games to play, he could still hit double digits in goals, but he'll have to get going pretty soon here.
Yeah, I was hoping even now, if he stays in the lineup the rest of the time, a 10 goal, 20 point finish.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at that at all.
No, yeah, and I'm just hoping that come April that he's really started to find his game, because that's when the playoffs are going to be getting going, and you want him to be on top of his game at that time to really be contributing in a meaningful way when they get into the most important time of the year. And if they have to play Vegas or LA or Colorado or Dallas in the first round, if he could be a guy who can chip in a goal or two in that series, then that makes the contract a lot more worth it than, if he's scoring a goal now in November or December. But obviously it would it'd help if he could at least get going a little bit here.
Yeah, it was this contract was the full year commitment. So if he at any point starts proving that he deserved the contract, then I'm good with it. But yeah, for now, I think he's good on the. I'd keep him on the fourth line. That third line, I don't mind with Ryan and Kane.
Yeah. And Rob, I know that you are a line combinations guy, as you already talked about, but hope I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but I think it'd be interesting to get your take. Game one of the Stanley Cup playoffs in April probably will be somewhere around April 23rd or 24th. What do you think the Oilers' top 9 forward group looks like?
You gotta kind of factor in trades here too. I think they do. I'm thinking they get Blackwood, so maybe they just can grab Duclair. That wouldn't be a bad one. And he would be one of Draisaitl's wingers, so I'd have the top line same
intact.
As
yeah.
Draisaitl, Kane, and Duclair.
That's your second, okay.
Yeah, then I do think McLeod and Ryan together there. Like, Ryan can ease a bit in the face-off circle. He's never been below 500.
You'd like him on the third 50%. Line still then?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Brown works his way back up, because I've been pushing for Holloway for a while. So Ryan, McLeod, and Holloway, third line. I don't know. Maybe they split up, put Duclair down, or even put Kane down, kind of mix it. Oh, there's Fogle. Forgot about Fogle.
Maybe he gets moved. I don't know.
I wouldn't move him. I would second or third line, probably third line. But yeah, then I guess maybe Ryan drop down the fourth if you have Fogle, Holloway. But realistically, I think Holloway's going fourth line. No one seems to trust him yet.
So Duclair would be your deadline ad then?
I think that's what they're gonna do. I don't know if it's the best one.
But maybe what they can get, and you put him with an elite player like Draisaitl, and he's able to thrive.
Yeah, he can definitely score, and he can skate, and that's what you talked about, a little depth, speed in there, and he's definitely a fast one, and he can score. So
A little bit of playoff experience
bad.
too.
Yeah, he's bounced around for sure. You know, he can score on an offensive team like Florida. They put in 30.
He just signed with San Jose, right? What kind of numbers
No,
does he?
he got traded in his final year. I think he's just 3 mil.
Oh, okay. He didn't sign. Okay.
No, yeah.
Yeah. And how many years does he have left? I'm gonna quickly check.
This is the final one.
This is the
Yeah,
final.
yeah,
Okay.
he's UFA.
And you said for
So
3?
yeah, I think it's 3.
Then why don't they just try and do Duclair and Blackwood in the same deal?
You know, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. If they're going for Blackwood, which I think they will, he would just come over in the same thing, and they would Campbell would have to move over. That would kind of offset the cost. Maybe keep a bit of
If you
money
have to
on
move Borgo and a
Duclair.
first, I'm fine with that as long as
Yeah,
you're bringing in. I mean, getting rid of the Campbell deal, that opens up $5 million for you as well. Now, Blackwood will eat up a little bit of that coming back, but I don't think his cap hit is that much.
it's 2.6. No, that's
Skinner.
but it's right around there.
So basically, you're opening up at least half the amount of money that you would have had otherwise keeping Campbell.
Yeah, and
Like
then that's what I was saying. Duclair gets a bit of retention because he's the UFA.
Yeah. The other thing is too the extra money that you're saving from getting rid of Campbell would also eat up a bit of the Connor Brown extra cap bonus next season too.
For sure.
So that's something to keep in mind. I'm just gonna see if I can quickly find. So
And
Blackwood is
signed.
2.3 million.
3, yeah, that's
And so you're basically getting both of your goalies for under 5 million, 4.9 combined, which is more than Jack Campbell was making, in total. So that would help. And then you've got Blackwood signed and he signed for all of next year too, which has helped. So something to look forward to. I definitely like to have you back on the podcast later this season, maybe after the trade deadline, and we can see if some of your predictions ended up happening. But
we'll see what crazy stuff happens.
Definitely fascinating. I do think though that they shouldn't wait until the end of February to make a move on a goaltender, though. This is something that they need to address right away, especially as we talked about with a bit of a lighter schedule coming up. They need to take advantage of this and make sure that they're banking wins. Like we said, they don't need to be playing at a 684 points percentage, but you want to see them closer to winning 3 out of every 5 games at least.
Yeah, at the very least before that February schedule kicks in.
Yeah, because then it gets intense. And you can't be playing every other night for 2.5 months and expecting Stuart Skinner to just run the table. Like, he's going to need some nights off. And as the season gets more intense, as much as Calvin Pickard is serviceable, you'd like to have a guy in there who you can probably count on a little bit more, who with more NHL experience and a higher pedigree in between the pipes.
Yeah, it's gonna be flashbacks to last year's playoffs with Skinner if you have him in every single night, every second day.
Give him the rest. Well, Rob, I really appreciate you being on the show tonight. Awesome talking to you. Are you working on anything, and where can people follow you?
I am not working on anything right now.
Enjoying a little bit of the Christmas break.
Nah, maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
I was trying to craft something up. And you can find me, stathockey.com is the website, and at stat_hockey on Twitter, or I think at RobCouch555 on Twitter as well is my main one. Both put out hockey content.
So everyone, please go follow Rob and check out all his work at the various sites where he writes. And you can follow me at Eric J. Friesen on Twitter, as well as my podcast at 99 Forever Pod. Rob, really appreciate you taking the time to jump on the show tonight here on Boxing Day, and let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, thanks for having me. A lot of fun.
All right, so for Rob Couch, I'm Eric Friesen. This has been the 99 Forever Podcast. We're out.